Everywhere we went, we heard it. The two of you were so cute, so adorable in your matching outfits. Twins. I grew up with a twin, Rachel. We were inseparable and wore our matching outfits with pride. And for a very long time, I saw myself in Rachel. But as we grew up, that started to change. This is Rachel. Rachel's my cousin, and despite our mom's best efforts to make us the same, we were different. And while for a very long time I saw myself in her blonde hair, fair skin, and light eyes, I began to see myself in my dark skin, my curly hair, and my ebony eyes. My mom is the daughter of a Scottish immigrant and long line of Jewish merchants, while my father, who's black, grew up in Mississippi and Arkansas, where his father sold moonshine, and he eventually made his way to California after serving in the Korean War. An interracial couple, a white mom, a black dad, in the 1970s was anything but commonplace. And while I coveted the blonde hair of my cousin Rachel, Farrah Fawcett, and Barbie, I loved my dark skin and my brown hair, and I loved the music that came out of Motown in the 60s and 70s, and more importantly, I loved going down the street to the Jefferson's house for traditional Southern cooking of fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread, and our neighbor, Mr. Clarence, who used to put us on his knee and tell us stories about how things used to be when he was a boy. And I felt really connected to the people who looked like me, not just by the color of our skin, but by our tradition and our history. And I knew who I was, so you can imagine how surprised I was the first time as a small child when I was out with my mother and a woman kneeled down and cut my chin and said, "What a beautiful child you are. What are you?" I knew what I was. And it was when I was about 7 that my mom moved us from the West Side to East LA. And there I developed my love and passion for Mexican culture. At my friend's house, I was enamored by the beautiful sights and sounds and the vibrancy of Mexican culture and music and the smell of fresh tortillas cooking and the Virgin Mary. I didn't know who she was, but I thought, these could be my people. So one day when I was out with my mom, I thought it would be a great opportunity to throw out some of that Spanish I'd been using, and with a pretty good accent, I might say. And very quickly and sharply, my mom turned, "What did you say?" And I repeated myself. "You are not Mexican. We do not speak Spanish." And you can imagine, I was blown away. I mean, I really thought I was successfully transitioning from black to Mexican. So when my Mexican friends asked me, "What are you?" I knew what I was. Just a few years later, by the age 9, my family was celebrating a lot more Jewish holidays with other relatives, Passover and Hanukkah, and my brother and I were going away to summer camp with other Jewish kids. And I started to think, now maybe this is a culture I could really sink my teeth into. And after the summer's production of Fiddler on the Roof, I knew the Jewish people were my people. So after camp, when my friend Renata invited me to her own house to spend time with her family, you can imagine my horror when her father looked at me and said, "What a cute little girl you are. What are you?" I knew what I was. Well, by the time I was a teenager, I had heard it from my mom, "You and your brother will not go to school in East LA. You will not get involved with gangs." So she worked overtime to make sure we went to school in South Pasadena, a predominantly white community, at a predominantly white school. And it was there that I learned with acute accuracy that I was not white and not quite black. Both the kids, black and white kids, quite consistently would approach me and say, "What are you?" I knew what I wasn't. So it was actually shortly after that, when I was in high school, when I had my first opportunity to travel abroad and go to Spain on a school trip. And it was there that everything changed for me. You see, going abroad gave me the experience of being American. So when people heard me speak English and said, "What are you?" I was able to say I'm American. I wasn't black, I wasn't Mexican, I was Jewish. I was American. And that confidence in being able to have a clear sense of identity was really empowering. And it gave me a great starting point for really trying to narrow down exactly what kind of American I was. I continued to travel well after high school. And when I came back to the United States, re-entry was difficult. And that Americanness that I had experienced was now more challenging. And when people asked me, "What are you?" it began to hit me like a hot metal poker. I wanted to know what that question meant. What did it mean to them? What did it mean to me? But I knew that search that I had been doing my entire life for a sense of my own identity was coming to a head. And once I started university, I began to embrace my blackness and began to see myself again in my dark skin and curly hair and ebony eyes, in the images of women like Pam Grier and Cicely Tyson and Rosa Parks. It was a really powerful and empowering place to be. And I got involved with the African American Student Union and my peers, people who looked like me and believed in the same things and had similar life experiences. And like it was yesterday, I'll never forget, after doing an event with other black students to create equality on our campus and in our classrooms, I sat with pride and a sense of belonging with people who looked like me. And another young woman, Danielle, who was mixed race, actually lighter than me, her hair almost blonde, fair skin and freckles, looked at me with almost indignation. "Tamara, do you think you're black?" Took my breath away. I thought about all the times people had asked me, "What are you?" And all the times I thought I knew what I was. But in that moment, it all came together with such clarity. Yes, Danielle, I'm black. And that is the answer, and continues to be the answer to that question. What are you? But for the last 20 years, no matter how often my response is the same, and actually more pronounced as I've gotten older, I'm black. Not African American, I'm black. I connect with that. That's who I am. But no matter how often I give that same answer, you reply the same. Black? No, not really. Come on, you're not really black. Ah, black, but not 100%, right? Black, but if you can say mixed or white, why would you say black? You see, what's wrong with my answer? What's wrong with black? What's wrong with me? For years, I scratched my head trying to figure that out. And I realized the answer is wrong to you, but it's right to me. What are you? What am I? I know who I am.